Welcome to the Musical Instrument Galleries of the Metropolitan Museum of Art in New York City. I'm standing here with a curator of musical instruments, Bradley Strauchen-Scherer, who for many years has been an amazing collaborator, a partner in exploring the magic that happens when we ask ourselves the question, what do musical instruments do? How do they relate to us? How do they move us? And how do they fit into the making of music, the making of art, and into society? Bradley has taught me so much over the years that we've known each other, and we're coming now to the climax of a very particular project, which is focusing on a group of instruments from the collection here, both violins, a viola, and an instrument which I don't even know what to call it. It's labeled as a viola d'amore here. It may have begun its life as a violetta. But the exciting thing about that, and the exciting thing for me, is every single time I pick up a musical instrument, it doesn't matter whether it's a form that I recognize, even a size I recognize it. It brings a set of ideas, a set of personalities, a set of acoustics, and a set of qualities, which is completely unique to itself. And I think what we've been trying to do is to make sure that when we listen to these instruments, and of course playing an instrument is all about listening to them, that we allow them to sing, we allow them to speak. And I'm passionate as an artist about getting out of the way to a degree. So we've been bringing together both music written at the time that these 17th and 18th century instruments were made, putting those in dialogue together, and also putting them into counterpoint with music which may be earlier and music that might be later. So I'd like to ask Bradley a couple of questions. Bradley, what excites you about working in a museum?
Well, many things excite me about working in a museum, but I might zero in on how extraordinary it is to be the musical instruments department at the Metropolitan Museum of Art. We have 17 curatorial departments here, and every single one of those has art that in one way or another references instruments and music making, be it depictions on calyxes in Greek and Roman, be it clothing in our Costume Institute that's been inspired by instruments or musical motifs, and everything in between. And so for me, that really embodies the power of music, because when you stop and think about it, music is central to human activity and human identity. It's not an esoteric specialism that's off to one side. And that's something that I love about being musical instruments at the Met, is you see that woven through everything in this building, and it really recenters music in a sense.
And just as much as music is referenced everywhere else, do you find that your work then references, if retroactively the other way around, that you're pulling in ideas from all the other disciplines around you here?
Oh, absolutely. And musical instruments are multivalent objects. They're sonic, they're visual, they're tactile, they're performative. They're doing all these different things. So I think nothing exists in a vacuum. It is all interlinked, and everything is in dialogue with each other. And it's fun to talk about that standing in this place here, because you can see that throughout our galleries we have instruments, but we also have this art that references music making.
I want to speak briefly about one particular instrument that we've been talking about, thinking about actually for several years running up to this. We were talking about this before COVID, this mysterious instrument made by Grangino, which one of the great challenges sometimes is you find yourself with the musical instrument and you don't really know what to do with it. And this instrument, which is, sometimes we violinists use the word violin-shaped object. You know, it has proportions we recognize. It's classical in every way, but the exciting thing, and there are 4 of these instruments that survived, all made by Grangino at the same time, was that nobody was really sure what to do with it. And a few years ago, Bradley and her team here said to me, well, do you think you could do something with this instrument? I worried about it, and I thought maybe I'm going to find myself in a situation where this is a really bad idea. Perhaps I should run away from it. And eventually, I found myself last night thinking, I'm going to be filming on this thing tomorrow, and I don't even know quite what to call it. That idea of, you've used the word multivalent, but isn't there also this idea that every single musical instrument has a possibility to bleed over into other instruments? Like a bowed instrument can be a plucked instrument, or there is classical, traditional violins here next to Arabic instruments. So do you find that instruments which have, if you like, problem identities are very, very, shall we say, fruitful to have in a museum?
Oh, absolutely. And it's interesting, just your choice of words, problem identities, because it really makes me stop and think. And I often think about this when I'm working with objects, or I think about this in my life as a musician. We have this desire, and I wonder if it's symptomatic of the 20th, 21st century. We're very tidy, and we like to compartmentalize, and we like to put things into pigeonholes. And the magic to me of something like this Grancino instrument is that once we can step away from God, I'm not sure what to call it, I'm not sure what to write on the label, you stop and you step back and you think, actually, is that really a productive or useful question? And you start trying to understand it in other ways. What does it do? What do you have in front of you? And something that you said to me several years ago that got me so excited about this, that's touching on this idea that instruments are multifaceted things, is the visual appearance of it. You said to me, this festoon shape, this really exuberant and extravagant profile of this instrument, it's theatrical. And, to stand here in front of this this instrument and set of objects, it is about theater. It's telling a story, it's making music, but it's also about referencing certain traditions. And so working with you really started to open my eyes to, what is the story around the Grancino? What was the person who made it thinking? What was the water that they were swimming in? And so these are, and then the importance of, gee, what exactly is it, really starts to recede when you start working your way in.
And of course, then there's the practical side of that, which is over the past few months, we've worked, and your team have been fantastic with wonderful luthier Gabriela Guadalajara, and to actually work out how to get the thing to work, actually, because it's not been played for many years. But nothing, I think, quite prepared any of us for what was going to happen over the past few days when this instrument it hasn't come to life. We've learned how to reach it, and especially when you get it into a resonant space. It's been wonderful to see that happen, I think, to see something which has been silent, waiting, give us sonorities and ideas we hadn't thought of. Because it doesn't matter how much we think about things and look at things, we don't really know what's going to happen until you do it.
This has certainly been true of working with the Grancino, and the other thing that is just so extraordinary, of all the extraordinary things that have happened over the last few days, but to work with you and to work with Michael and really to witness in real time unfolding in front of me this spontaneous act of creation, that art is coming out of art, to watch the two of you working with the Steiner viola, listening to its voice, responding to that. And I feel that really three entities, for lack of a better word, it's a trio there. It's Michael, it's you, and it's the Steiner viola, and it's this collaboration between these three entities. And that, for me, you asked me earlier, what is exciting about being a musical instrument curator? And I would say that that's just a moment of extreme transcendence. And it's a moment of extreme humility as well, I think, just getting to witness that act of Genesis.
And I'm here with my dear friend, the composer, Alec Rose. We've just finished 3 days working on the new piece he has written, inspired by this place and the instrument that I've been playing it on. So I would like to ask him some questions about the piece and to get it into context. So Michael, why did you write this piece?
Well, Peter, you asked me to, and I could not say no. This is an adventure, and the Met is the first place where music that I've written for particular instruments has been premiered and recorded. In this case, the instrument by Jakob Steiner from 1660, I did not hear it. I didn't have any notion of what it sounded like, but I know you. And I know that I saw the instrument in the museum's catalog, and I knew that this was an instrument that I was going to love. I just knew it. And so I tried to open up the sound as much as possible and to do as much resonant and celebratory sonorities on the viola, which for decades has been truly a very important instrument for me.
So that's really interesting. You had to imagine the sound before you experienced it.
But I know you, and I know what you have done with so many instruments that I've heard you play for almost 20 years. And this is the first viola piece I've ever composed for you.
And you write lots of viola music.
I have lots of viola music, but for you, it was something special, and it was very important to me.
So what happened to the piece for you when you met the viola?
The first time I heard you pick it up and play it, it surpassed any expectations. And Bradley, the curator who's made all of this possible, the fact that we were in her office, in her room, made it even more special to me that your collaboration with this museum and with Bradley, I was in a sacred space, and the viola filled it up. And having read a little bit about Steiner's life and biography, that actually was very important to me too as I was composing. This troubled man with his very troubled biography. I wanted to make sure that darkness, which of course is characteristic of the viola in any case, was something that I could illuminate and actually make bright in a way that most people don't understand the viola, but I knew that you could play it that way.
So what we did was we spent actually 2 afternoons working in great detail, effectively allowing the viola to teach us the piece all over again. I think it's safe to say that not a single note of the piece remained entirely the same after the viola had it.
And once again, 18 years we've known each other. This has been a process that has been at the center not only of my compositional life, but of my emotional life. The fluidity, the natural evolution of my music, thanks to you. Nothing is engraved in either pencil or ink, certainly not in stone. It is a work in progress, even after, here's the score. I mean, I do all my work in pencil precisely because I know I'm going to need to erase a lot of stuff. And that is such a gift to me that you have given me a chance to make the music always capable of becoming better with your help.
I think one of the things that we both believe in is the idea that there's no repetition in music. When you play a piece again, there's going to be another journey. Something else is going to happen with it. It has to be alive, and that means you don't travel down the same road again. But just to give you a tiny illustration of the kind of things that happened, when you hear the piece and you hear the end of the piece, there's a sort of sunburst at the end of the piece. Now that sound, Michael had an idea of what he wanted, but I don't think either of us were ready for the kind of brilliance the instrument was going to bring to it. And actually, we're actually quite challenged by writing down on paper what it is the viola does. And that's exciting, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, it's uncanny to know what you want, but not how to get there before you hear the instrument. As a composer, I knew that the last thing that was going to happen had to be, as you said, a sunburst with an ultimate radiance, which of course goes against the grain of what the viola is meant to sound like, certainly in orchestra music, but to turn it into this luminous, radiant sound was something that I needed your help with, and I had to hear the instrument, and we made a lot of changes to that ending, thanks to you.
And one more question, which is, can I ask what your feelings are about hearing it actually in this space of the museum, or in this wonderful space with this Tonti harpsichord behind it and everything?
It's hard to express what I'm feeling right now. I mean, I've loved this museum my whole life. And to be in here in this beautiful place with these beautiful instruments, to feel part of that history now, it's more than a dream come true. I mean, it has to do with the sense of destiny. It's like, with your help, with Bradley's help, I'm exactly not only where I want to be, but where I have to be. And that feels really amazing. And with all humility, I know that this is something that was meant to happen because the collaborative energy is exactly what matters most.
Well, I think that says it better than I could say it. I'd like to thank the Metropolitan Museum of Art for enabling me to work here. I'd very much also like to acknowledge the support to my work given by Knowledge Exchange, which is run by Research England, and my work at the Royal Academy of Music. And I'd also like to acknowledge the fact that the composer Alec Rose's visit here has been made possible by the Blair School of Music at Vanderbilt University at Nashville. This is all about collaboration. It's all about what happens when we work with each other, and it's great to be part of a team. Teams can do great things.